Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update from RAU'S IAS. Do not forget to subscribe to our Telegram channel for all the updates and materials. Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why and how of newspaper analysis from the perspective of UPSC Civil Services examination. Today we are going to take up Delhi edition of The Hindu newspaper dated 30th of April 2021. The articles which we are going to take up today have been displayed on your screen. Let us now begin the discussion with an important announcement. And that announcement is that the first batch of Quality Improvement Program classes or QIP classes is set to begin on Monday. QIP classes are designed in such a way that they deliver the most important topics for the prelims examination of that year in around 50 hours. These classes will consist of economy, environment, polity, history, science and tech, and international relations. The next batch of QIP classes is set to begin on 3rd of May 2021. Let us now begin the discussion. So by looking at the index which was displayed in the introduction, you might be surprised that why there are only two news. And so we will begin the discussion by first understanding why we have not taken the editorials and columns today. Let us start with the two columns which appear on the left side of the page number 6 or 8. So the topmost column, long and tortuous, talks about the elections which were recently conducted in 4 states and 1 union territory. It says that although free and fair periodic elections are an essential feature of a democracy, but in situations like COVID, the kind of campaigning which has been done by a lot of political parties have been quite questionable, and so there is no need to mention as to why it's not relevant for us as far as UPSC syllabus is concerned. Then on the bottom side you have promises to keep. And this particular column focuses on the work which has been done by the recently elected President of United States of America, Mr. Joe Biden. And it says that most of the promises which Mr. Biden did in run-up to elections as far as domestic arena is concerned, he has been quite effective, and he has been able to deliver on most of the promises which he made as far as initial 100 days are concerned. But there is a lot more which is expected from Mr. Joe Biden as far as international relations of USA with other countries are concerned. And so again, it is basically a report card of Mr. Joe Biden and out of the purview of UPSC syllabus. Then on page number 8, you have Delhi government's responsibilities remain, says center. So the Union Home Ministry has said that the Government of National Capital Territory Amendment Act 2021 in no way alters the constitutional and legal responsibilities of the elected government. And so just like before, health indeed remains under the purview of Delhi government or the elected Council of Ministers headed by the Chief Minister. And so when we talk about this particular amendment and what it has done has already been elaborately discussed by Naved sir. And so on DNS dated 20th of March, he first began by discussing the need of the bill. Because there was a Supreme Court judgment in 2018 which said that LG does not enjoy sole discretion and every matter cannot be referred to President because ultimately it impacts the day-to-day functioning of the government. And in that same judgment, Supreme Court observed that elected government cannot be undermined by appointed Lieutenant Governor. And so to undo that particular Supreme Court judgment, a bill has been introduced which says that in the act, all references to government would mean Lieutenant Governor and not the elected government of Delhi. And in the same DNS, Naved sir also discussed the important provisions of the bill. For example, bill prohibits Legislative Assembly of Delhi to make any rules to enable itself or its committees. The bill also requires the Lieutenant Governor to reserve such bills which cover any matter outside the purview of the powers of Delhi Legislative Assembly. And the bill also requires that on certain matters, as specified by Lieutenant Governor, his opinion must be obtained before taking any executive actions on decision of Minister or Council of Ministers. And so in essence, what this bill has done is that theoretically as well as practically it has transferred most of the powers from the Council of Ministers to the Lieutenant Governor and indeed to the central government. So if you don't have clarity on this amendment, it is highly recommended that you go and watch the DNS dated 20th of March 2021. Then this lead article, to stop a third wave, India has to mask up, talks about the need for Indians to stop this second phase of COVID. It highlights that apart from vaccination, it has now been proven that wearing mask, physical distancing, hand hygiene, and a complete ban on mass gatherings have proven to be quite effective. And if India wants to flatten this second wave, There is high time that Indians understand the importance of these four methods, which are hand hygiene, physical distancing, mask wearing, and total ban on mass gatherings. Then this article on page number 6, State Repression That Breaches Public Peace, talks about the government of Telangana's recent notification, which has banned 16 organizations under Telangana Public Security Act 1992. Now, under this notification, all these organizations have been termed as unlawful associations, and in this whole article, all what author does is to counter the belief of the state government that these 16 organizations are unlawful. According to her, these organizations have led to a lot of protest in recent times, for example, against UAPA Act, farm laws, CAA, NRC, and also against the management of COVID-19 by the Telangana state government. And so, this article also is not in any way helpful to us in UPSC examination. So this particular article which we have taken up, childhood vaccinations must not be delayed, appears on page number 8. We understand that childhood vaccinations are very crucial to ensure the health and well-being of children, and hence they must not be delayed or even missed, is what is the conclusion which has been taken from Hindu's wellness webinar. So a lot of doctors and health officials gathered in the webinar which was organized by the Hindu group, and this is what the conclusion which was arrived at. Now, vaccination as a part of India's policy response against a lot of diseases, and especially the communicable diseases, have been a very integral part of UPSC syllabus. For example, in 2016, UPSC asked Mission Indradhanush launched by the Government of India pertains to immunization of children and pregnant women, construction of smart cities across the country, India's own search for the Earth-like planets in outer space, and new educational policy. And of course, the right answer was immunization of children and pregnant women. Similarly, in 2012, UPSC asked with reference to National Rural Health Mission, which of the following are the jobs of ASHA, or also accredited social health activist, acronymed as ASHA, a trained community health worker, accompanying women to health facility for antenatal care checkup, using pregnancy test kits for early detection of pregnancy, providing information on nutrition and immunization, and conducting the delivery of baby. Now, you might not hear this term a lot in news these days, but it was an integral part of current affairs back in 2010, 11 and 12, when the government of India had recently launched National Rural Health Mission, and ASHA workers, or these community health workers, were considered to be the keystone on which this whole idea was based upon. And so now you can understand that schemes and policies related to health, immunization, and nutrition, especially of children and infants, is very, very important. And so that is why in today's DNS we are going to take up a universal immunization program, which is one of the key interventions for protection of children from life-threatening conditions which are preventable. So if you vaccinate children against these very commonly occurring diseases, you can totally prevent them from being infected by these diseases. So it is one of the largest immunization program in the world and a major public health intervention in our country. And not recently, but in 1978, this particular program was introduced in our country. And by the time 1990 came, it was extended to all the districts in our country. And in 2005, when National Rural Health Mission was launched, Universal Immunization Program became a key component of National Rural Health Mission, which has now been renamed as National Health Mission, and it has two components, urban and rural. So, what are the diseases against which our children get vaccinated in this particular program free of cost? So, the government of India is providing vaccination to prevent 7 vaccine preventable diseases: diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, polio, measles, severe form of childhood tuberculosis and hepatitis B, Haemophilus influenza type B or HIB, and diarrhea. So an obvious question arises that whether we are to memorize all these 7 to 8 diseases and their vaccines. Of course, the answer is yes, but you have to lay extra emphasis on these new vaccines which have been added to the program in last 3 to 4 years, starting with inactivated polio vaccine. Now, earlier, the program had used the oral Now, since the beginning of the program, it had used oral polio vaccine. You must have seen these advertisements by Amitabh Bachchan on television. Those are called oral polio drops, which have live attenuated virus. So these drops have live polio virus, and what they had done, it has been observed that in some cases, in very few cases, they have given rise to polio in the person, or rather a child, on which the jabs were administered. And so it was decided that in place of live attenuated virus or oral polio vaccine, we are going to replace it with inactivated polio vaccine, and now there is no threat of person being infected because it has been inactivated. So this is the new vaccine which was added 3 years ago. Then now rotavirus vaccine has already been introduced, and this has been done to reduce mortality and morbidity caused by this rotavirus, which induces dysentery and severe form of diarrhea in children. Then the vaccine against measles and rubella has already been introduced, because India has committed itself to the goal of measles elimination and rubella control, and for that this particular vaccine was introduced in our program in 2017. Then pneumococcal conjugate vaccine has been introduced in 2017 for reducing infant mortality and morbidity caused by pneumococcal pneumonia. And then finally, tetanus and adult diphtheria vaccine has already been included. So these are the 5 new vaccines which have been added in past 3 years, which are very, very important. And so now coming back to the question which was asked in 2016 prelims examination, Mission Indradhanush, which was launched in 2014 and which aims at increasing the full immunization coverage to children to 90%. Because even after universal immunization program, the penetration of these vaccines is quite low in a lot of areas, and to increase the coverage of the immunization program, special emphasis was needed, because of which Mission Indradhanush was launched. Under this drive, focus is given on pockets of low immunization coverage and hard to reach areas where the proportion of unvaccinated and partially vaccinated children is highest. So first a mapping is done, and so through that mapping, the areas which already have very low immunization coverage are identified, and special emphasis is laid on those areas, and people are sent, health workers are sent in those areas specifically to increase the vaccination there. So while the first 2 phases of Mission Indradhanush resulted in 6.7% increase in full immunization coverage in a year, a recent survey has shown that the second phase of Mission Indradhanush has led to gains of around 18.5% as far as immunization is concerned. And this has been revealed by 4th National Family Health Survey. Now the obvious question is that when you want so many vaccines to reach so many areas, every nook and corner of the country has to be covered and every infant and child has to be vaccinated, there has to be a proper supply chain management. And so the government of India has taken proper steps in this regard as well, with electronic vaccine intelligence network rollout that digitizes the entire vaccine stock management, their logistics and temperature tracking at all levels of vaccine storage from national to sub-district. Because you should understand that these vaccines need appropriate temperature and humidity. If you don't provide them, the impact of the vaccine will be compromised and could also become toxic. And so it is very important to maintain the ambient air quality like the one which has been prescribed by the manufacturer. And you need intensive monitoring, and that is why even this enables program managers to have real-time view of the vaccine stock position and their storage temperature across all the cold chain points, providing a detailed overview of the vaccine cold chain logistics systems across the entire country. Now, as far as the implementation is concerned, of course, it is being done in the phased manner, and it has been completed in 12 states in our country. And along with this, government is also enabling National Cold Chain Management Information System to track the cold chain equipment inventory, availability, and their functionality. And since we have discussed Universal Immunization Program, let us in the same breath also discuss another scheme, Integrated Child Development Services, which focuses on childhood and children, but it is much more wider than just immunization. It of course has a component of immunization, nutrition and health, but it is much wider than that. Now, if you want to understand why this targeted scheme for children, you have to understand that children in the age group of 0 to 6 years constitute around 158 million of the population of India. And these children are the future human resource of our country. And so that is why we have to cater to their needs and demands of development. And so for the same reason, Ministry of Women and Child Development is implementing various schemes for welfare, development and protection of children. And ICDS is one of the oldest scheme under such umbrella. It was launched in 1975 and it is one of the world's largest and unique program for early childhood care and development. The beneficiaries under this scheme are children in the age group of 0 to 6 years, pregnant women and lactating mothers. Objectives of the scheme are to improve the nutritional and health status of children in the age group of 0 to 6 years, to lay the foundation for proper psychological, physical, social development of the child, to reduce the incidence of mortality, morbidity, malnutrition and school dropouts, to achieve effective coordination of policy and implementation among the various departments to promote child development, to enhance the capability of the mother to look after the normal health and nutritional needs of the child through proper nutrition and health education. So what exactly are the services under this scheme? The services are nutrition, preschool non-formal education, nutrition and health education, immunization, health checkup and referral services. Now there should be no confusion as to which are the components of this scheme which have been implemented by Ministry of Health. So of course last three issues or the last three services dealing with immunization, health checkup and referral services are dealt by Ministry of Health, whereas these three services are looked after by Ministry of Women and Child Development. And where are they dealt with? So the government establishes Anganwadi centers, which you can say is a kind of creche or child care center where there are people to look after and provide for these services. Now these Anganwadis have Anganwadi workers which provide all the facilities, but you have villages, you have people around which need community health services. And so that is where the Ashas come into play. What Ashas do is that they venture out into villages, into deep pockets of rural areas, and they carry out IEC campaigns or awareness programs related to reproductive health, and they mobilize the community and facilitate them in accessing health services in the Anganwadi centers. So keep these things in mind for prelims examination, as these are the cornerstones of how India delivers good health, nutrition and education to the children belonging to the age of 0 to 6. Let us now move on to the second discussion. China launches key module for its permanent space station appears on page number 13. Tianhe blasts into space from Wenchang Center. So just yesterday, China has launched the main module of its first permanent space station that will host astronauts for the long term. Now this is being hailed as the recent success of China's space program. The Tiangong space station is the name of the project under which the China is going to set up a space station just like ISS, which will be a low Earth orbit space station between the range of 340 to 450 kilometers above the surface of the Earth. But in comparison to ISS or International Space Center, it is going to be pretty small, just the 1/5 of the mass of the ISS. And as far as the planning is concerned, it is designed to be used for around 10 years, which could be extended to 15 years, and it will accommodate at max 3 astronauts when it will function. And now when we talk about the yesterday's launch, this is the main module which has been launched into the space, and all the other components will be launched subsequently, and they will be launched in such a way and in such a direction with such a speed that ultimately they all gather together in the space and assemble themselves.